faithful tune. Somewhere there's a heaven, how high the moon. There's no moon above when love is far away too. Till it comes true that you love me as I love you. Somewhere there's music, it's where you are. Somewhere there's heaven, how near, how far. The darkest night could shine if you'd come to me soon. Until you will be still my heart. Until you will be still my heart. Until you will be still my heart. How high the moon.
That's the one and only vocalist Eddie Bruce with the Ed Vizino and Jim Ward Big Band, a tune that became Ella Fitzgerald's signature tune. No version more famous than her 1960 recording, Ella in Berlin. I think that version probably inspired this one from Eddie and Company, How High the Moon. That coming from Bruce's most recent release, For Dreamers and Their Dreams. Featured soloist there, Keith Chasen, on piano. And prior to that, we started off with vocalist April Varner, an Emmett Cohen arrangement of Cole Porter's Night and Day, that coming from Varner's Ella, due out late March from Corey Weeds' Cellar Music label. And right now, I am so glad to be joined by a incredible artist, but more importantly, a wonderful longtime friend and someone who represents music in Philadelphia the way it ought to be represented. Mr. Eddie Bruce, thanks for being on Breaking Jazz. This is really, really cool, man.
It's really cool, Matt. I know you since you're a little boy. I hate to say it. It's true. Oh, man. And of course, you know, your dad and I go back. We go back further than you probably even know.
Well, I mentioned at the top of the show that you've known me longer than I've actually known myself. And I don't even think that's, that's not even like one of those existential self-actualization riddle things. That's just flat out true.
It's flat out true. And, you know, your dad and I, of course, were partners in the music business for a few years, quite a few years way back. And after we were partners for a couple of years, I happened to find the slides from my bar mitzvah that I hadn't seen in years. And when I pulled them out, sure enough, who was the band leader at my bar mitzvah but your dad? So he was a couple of years older than me, but he was already leading the band and playing at my bar mitzvah. So, I mean, it's really incredible how far back our connection goes.
Well, it's also incredible is that he was on an episode of The Goldbergs because I don't know if you knew this or saw this. He played I forget the name of the showrunner of The Goldbergs, but he played that guy's bar mitzvah. He's a Jenkintown native, and on the show, they, you know, it fits in with the time period that the show is set in, and so they actually play video from the showrunner's bar mitzvah as though it's one of the characters' bar mitzvahs taking place like contemporaneously.
There was Ken Silver, your father.
There in the full robust 70s porn stash. It was amazing. And I had all these friends texting me like, Matt, your dad is on the Goldbergs. It's crazy.
Well, I'm jealous because I tried to get through to him because in those years that the Goldbergs were set, I was hosting Dancing on Air in Philadelphia on Channel 17, a local dance show. So I thought for sure, you know, they'd want to do an episode around Dancing on Air. But by the time I figured that out and tried to get in touch, they were already out of production and it was too late. But I had a funny experience like your dad's because of Bob Saget, the great late comedian Bob Saget, who was also from Philly. And I played his wedding. And Bob went out on tour after the wedding. He took the video from his wedding and edited it so that he could do a comedy bit. So he would go on Carson and play his wedding, and he would, we'd have a conga line, and he'd say, "Oh, there's the line to the bathroom, and there's my Uncle Al asleep," and there I was behind everybody making a toast with my band. So because of Saget, I was on the Tonight Show, the Merv Griffin Show, the Dick Cavett, all the shows that he did. There I was. And he used that to get the job as a host of America's Funniest Videos. So we stayed in close touch. I miss him. He was a terrific guy. But we're totally off the track here.
No, well, you know what? Let's keep it organic because
I love it.
you mentioned dancing on air, and you may or may not want me to mention this, but I found a clip that goes even further back than that, because your singing predates that. Even before I came on the air tonight, I watched a video of you from 1968 on the original amateur hour hosted by Ted Mack. It was CBS national television. It was on from coast to coast, and you sang "For Once in My Life." I'm not sure how old you were at the time. You didn't look old enough to buy a beer or serve in the military.
Although people are surprised at what they think I looked about 17, 18, 19. I was 15. And
whoa.
Yeah, I was 15.
Whoa.
And that turned out to be an incredible thing because it was 1968. So everybody knows how old I am now. The hell with it. Can't hide that. But I don't care. So I had auditioned for this amateur hour, which was on CBS in the time slot. 60 Minutes has been on for the last God knows how many years, right before Ed Sullivan. And it was taped in New York. I auditioned a couple times. I finally got on. They recorded my version of "For Once in My Life" for the piano player. They sent it to New York. I go to New York for the first time as a 15-year-old by train, and I report to the address that they told me to go to. And it turns out it was the Ed Sullivan Theater. So they taped that show on the stage where the Ed Sullivan Show was done. And of course, later Letterman and Colbert in that incredibly iconic theater. 15 years old, and I was watching Ed Sullivan, and the Beatles and the Supremes and every great star in the world had been on that stage. Now here I am with a big orchestra singing a Tony Bennett song under the Geritol sign, for Iron Poor Blood. And I had no right to sing this love song. I had 15 years old. I didn't know what "For Once in My Life" I have someone who needs me means. But of course, there were no VCRs in those days. So I never saw the show except the one time it aired live in October of 1968, until about 2007 or 8, when I got a call from the producer of the Ted Mack Show, who had been asked to digitize all the shows for the Library of Congress. And as he did that, he tried to reach out to artists who he could find, and offered me a DVD of the show with, all cleaned up and everything. And I had never seen it. It blew my mind. It blew my kids' minds to have that. But then I would do a show. I do a show that's a tribute to Tony Bennett. So I would always play that in the show and surprise the audiences in telling that story. And then I would tell them, I'm glad there were no VCRs, because I don't have to ever look at that kid again. And then up it pops on the screen, and everybody gets a kick out of seeing me at 15. So it really was a cool chapter. It's on my YouTube channel if people want to see it.
It's funny you mentioned that that Tony Bennett show that you did, because when I think of you, I think of that's what I think. I think of so many of the repertory projects that you've done, from Tony Bennett to Anthony Newley. I got to see you do the Anthony Newley show at Birdland in Manhattan a couple of years ago with our very good friend Dean Schneider. I was there. Whose catalog is your all-time favorite to perform?
Well, I mean, look, I love Tony Bennett. He taught me so much about phrasing and choosing great songs and approach and integrity in his career. But if I'm honest, the show I love performing the most is the Anthony Newley show, because it is more dramatic. It has so many different styles. Newley, when he died in 1999, I just thought he was unappreciated as a songwriter. And so I did this show to celebrate that, because besides being a great actor and a really good singer, although everybody didn't love his style, he gave us songs that are 70 years old and still being sung all the time. Feeling Good, Pure Imagination, What Kind of Fool Am I, are all on my new album. And there's, Pure Imagination from Willy Wonka has been in every production of Wonka that's been done, from the remake of the movie to the remake of the Broadway show. The one song that's been constant is not Candyman, but Pure Imagination. And of course, Feeling Good, Nina Simone had that huge hit with it. And then Michael Bublé reinvented it. And now every kid on American Idol says, I want to do a Michael Bublé song. It's like, dude, it's not a Michael Bublé song. It's an Anthony Newley, Leslie Bricusse song. So anyway, I just thought he was so dramatic and so interesting. So I like performing his stuff. But as far as the meaning, long-term meaning for my musical life, it's Tony Bennett.
Well, let's play some music, and let's go off the Anthony Newley thing. Let's go to Eddie Bruce with the Ed Vizino and Jim Ward Big Band from that new album, Four Dreamers and Their Dreams. Great tune, originally written by Anthony Newley. This is the aforementioned Pure Imagination, and it's Breaking Jazz. Hey, Eddie, we can come back after this one, and we can actually, we'll go into Save Your Love for Me after this one. Is that cool?
You're gonna go directly into it? Cool.
And then we'll come back. Then we'll come back.
We'll come back. Nancy Wilson.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Awesome.
Sweet, man.
Into your imagination, we'll begin with a spin. Traveling in the world of my creation, what we'll see will defy explanation. If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want, do it, just do it. Want to change the world, there's nothing to it. There is no life I know to compare with pure imagination.
Should I get Emily?
What's up?
Should I get Emily to come down here? She probably won't come on because she's probably all in looking for bedtime. But what did you have for her?
Well, I was gonna play your cut of Emily from not this past
from the past. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's over that.
Okay.
Every weekday at 5 p.m. Pacific, KSDS, San Diego's Jazz 88.3, brings the sound of a great American jazz city to your ears with Jazz Across America. I'm your host, the jazz maniac Kenny Washington. I kick off the week with Jazz Across America, spotlighting music from the clubs, great concert halls, and ballrooms of New York. Hear the music through the ears of a working musician, right here on KSDS Jazz 88.3. For more information about my shows and all the station's programming, visit jazz88.org/schedule.
Wish I knew why I'm so in love with you. No one but still I plead. Darling, please save your love for me. Yeah. But for crying out loud, darling, please.
Yeah, right here on Breaking Jazz. Eddie Bruce with the Ed Vizino and Jim Ward Big Band from their new album, For Dreamers and Their Dreams, Save Your Love for Me. An arrangement by Ed Vizino, featured soloist there, tenor saxophonist John Gaida. And that had a great tune there coming from a project, Nancy Wilson and Cannonball Adderley, their eponymously titled duo project, released, it's crazy to release almost exactly 64 years ago, February 1962, Capitol Records. Eddie, top to bottom, that's a desert island pick for me. That's one of my favorite albums of all time. What is it about that one for you?
Well, I was, when I was growing up in the 60s in Philly, and, when I was 13, 14, 15, my friends were listening to the Stones and the Beatles and, and the English Invasion, rock and roll, which I didn't find until later because I was obsessed with Nancy Wilson, Ella Fitzgerald, Tony Bennett, and Frank Sinatra. And so I was a Nancy Wilson fan as a kid, maybe the only one, in Philly. I would hang on every album. I just was so connected to her singing. And that was one of my all-time favorites. Now, the album you mentioned, is that the live one where he pulls her up out of the crowd to sing it, or that's on the studio version?
That's the studio. It's simply called Nancy Wilson, Cannonball Adderley.
So there's another version of that you should check out, where it's like a live session. He's got an audience. It's not a concert. It's almost like a live recording session with an audience. And he says, "Hey, Nancy," and he brings her up, and they do it. I don't know if it's spontaneous or if it was rehearsed, but it's really a little more edgy than the original studio album. I always wanted to record it. You don't hear the song done. You certainly don't hear guys sing it. And I'm so excited that it's on the album. And but we just got notified by Jazz Is magazine that we're going to be featured next month on their Discovery page. I don't exactly know what it is, but I know that it's a great honor, and I'm thrilled about it. And that's the cut we sent them, because I just think it's so great to have that song get some life breathed into it,
That's just a killer album. There's so from beginning to end, that's just one of my favorite albums. Never Will I Marry's on there. They do Happy Talk from South Pacific. They take what they do with that tune is incredible. They take this it's so corny and dated even then, and they made it into this really cool thing. Little Unhappy Boy, I'm trying to think. Sleepin' Bee is there. Masquerade, The Masquerade is Over. Awesome album.
The original stuff she broke through with, and Cannibal was a big part of that. Listen, I've always been obsessed with the Black female jazz singers of that time, from Ella to Sarah Vaughan to Carmen McRae, and especially Nancy, who never, I don't think, got the cred that the other women got as a jazz artist. And we're talking about Ella with How High the Moon. I was taken to the Latin Casino, which was a huge nightclub in this area. For years and years, the only place before Atlantic City had casinos to see a headliner. And when I was 6 years old, my mother took me to the Latin Casino when it was still in Philadelphia to see live on stage the Three Stooges, who were my all-time favorite at 6 years old. And when they finished their act, I thought, this is the greatest day of my life. I saw Mo and Larry and a version of Curly, and I was like, wow. And as I got up to leave, there was a timpani drum, and an announcer said, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the star of our show, Miss Ella Fitzgerald." So out comes Ella. The Three Stooges opened for Ella. Dig that, right? Whose idea was that? I'd like to have been at that meeting. And as soon as she opened her mouth, what you expose your kids to at 6 years old might change their lives. In that case, it did for me. I just was mystified by her, and I forgot Mo, Larry, and Curly. So it was a great day.
No, it's really true. And when I think of the reason why, even though I'm not making money playing music or singing or doing anything like that. I think couple of the big reasons that I needed to find a way to be involved in music for whatever it was I was going to do for a living. It all goes back to the stuff that my dad introduced me to, and one of those things obviously was hearing you. Another was hearing my dad's band, and then I was fortunate enough to have parents who took me to Broadway, and to be
So important.
exposed.
So important.
It's I mean, when the word privilege is thrown around haphazardly in our culture, but that really was such an incredible privilege, because that those experiences became hardwired into my mainframe. They became North Stars for how I sort of navigate growing up and being a person.
I don't even buy my kids and grandchildren presents anymore. I make them go to shows with me. And I will have seen the same show 4 times because I got to take each of them as they got old enough to really appreciate it. The ones I love I just took my oldest daughter, who's in her 40s too, to Broadway for her birthday to see Moulin Rouge. I'd seen it was the 3rd time I'd seen it, but she hadn't seen it. So, and the grandchildren too, as soon as they're old enough to sit through one, I take them. And listen, the influence your dad had on you, I'm sure growing up, he loves music as much as anybody that I know. And when I was starting in the party business with my party band, he was the guiding light. He was already established, and we all wanted to do things the way Ken Silver did them. With the flower in your lapel and the classy look, and everybody dressed to the nines. And when other bands were kind of hanging out with weekend warriors who were just barely making it, and he was out there presenting this band in a different way, and I went, that's the way you do it. So he's so much older than me that it was a great example. Great listening, and I'm sure he's thrilled with that.
Well, I mean, he had a way about him, and he had a way of managing. He was a very underrated MC, I thought, and he did a wonderful job of whether it was a candlelighting or any other kind of ceremony that you might. He really, I don't know, he made his communications feel genuine, and he was able to touch people emotionally, obviously through playing and singing, but also he was an underrated MC, I thought.
Which you cannot teach.
Yeah.
You cannot teach it. I mean, I was on the microphone since I was about 11, really, when I first got up at the club. That microphone in front of my face became a part of me, and I can speak on a mic as if it's just you and me. I was just at the Kimmel Center here in Philly with the Pops, 2,000 people, and my tone is conversational. It's not something I learned. It's something I just did. And your dad had that too, that ability to speak to a crowd of people as if you're talking to one person. And I've seen so many talented people that get in front of that mic and they start to talk and they sound stilted and forced, and they just don't know how to quite communicate. And your dad always had that ability.
The funny part, Eddie, is that if you take the microphone away, then he does sound stilted and forced sometimes.
I'm not going there.
That's sort of another psychopathology to get into. That's something in and of itself, and he can pay someone hourly to hash out all of that. But you're talking about Broadway. I'm sure it does. I think he's one of those who are impervious to psychoanalysis. My mom too. Quite honestly, they're special people. But you were talking about Broadway, and one of the tunes you do on this album is one of my favorite tunes ever to have been performed on Broadway, and it comes from the Leonard Bernstein musical, 1944's "On the Town." And of course, this is a tune that was probably, gained its purchase in the zeitgeist when it was recorded by Tony Bennett and Bill Evans in the 1970s. Of course, I'm talking about some other time, but talk about those, because I think, sometimes there's this feeling with Sinatra and Bennett that that jazz people, jazz purists are reluctant to include them in the thing, and clearly Bennett's collaboration with Bill Evans I mean, as far as Bennett was concerned, I think put that to rest and made that indisputable. But
Sinatra
talk about that.
Sinatra never really crossed that Rubicon. Those of us who know what Sinatra does and appreciate it understand the musicality that he had. And he was a pop singer with some jazz influences. Tony Bennett, when he did the Bill Evans albums, he got the jazz cred that he deserved. He phrased like a horn. Ruby Braff, a cornet player, was one of his idols for the way he phrased. And Bennett got that, when he did those, I mean, they're miraculous albums. When I do the Bennett show that I do, whenever I'm in a theater that wants an intermission, I start the second act with just Dean on piano and me doing two of the Bill Evans songs. Quietly start act two with just the two of us quietly. And sometimes it's Some Other Time, sometimes it's You Must Believe in Spring, or Make Someone Happier, but anything from those albums. Now, Some Other Time, it's one of those songs. I truly believe that sometimes the simplest approach is the best. Leonard Bernstein did not need me to change his melody or to try to jazz it up or to do riffs or runs or play with it. I tried to sing it as it was written and still try to make it my own. And as I listened to this arrangement of it, we didn't even retard at the end. Like usually at the ending of a song, they're going to slow it down and do a little bit. We didn't even do that. It's just so pure. And I loved Ed's arrangement of it because he understood that too. I just wanted to say what the song said and sing the words and let it speak for itself. So I love this song.
Ed, let's close on this one because we're running out of time a little bit here, but we'll have to have you back, and because I want to hear. Give me just 30 seconds on what you're presently working on and where folks can see you. I know we've got a lot of listeners on the East Coast. I know you probably don't have any West Coast dates scheduled at the moment. Maybe you do.
There. Get me out there.
But let all our East Coast listeners know where they can hear you and what's coming up down the line. I heard rumblings of maybe some European gigs.
That's
so
what we're working hard on. But upcoming, the next thing, I perform live where I can and when I can. It's the opportunities are not always that prevalent with this music. So I'm going to be at the Colonial Theater in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, April 12th, a Sunday matinee at 3:00 with the 100th anniversary celebration of Tony Bennett. He would have been 100 August 3rd of this year. So we're going to celebrate that on April the 12th, Colonial Theater. Everything's on my website, eddiebruce.com. That's the theater that the movie The Blob was filmed at, where people are running from that's the Blob. Anyway, on June 21st, Father's Day, also a Sunday, I'm going to do this album live, all 14 cuts with the big band at the Fringe Arts Theater in Philadelphia, right at Columbus Boulevard and Race Street. Cool, very hip little theater with about 250 seats, intimate, but we'll have the big band. And, can't talk about much in Europe yet because nothing's firm, but we are really looking at taking the big band stuff over there, where it's really appreciated so much more sometimes than here. And then the Great Metropole Orchestra in Amsterdam is going to do a show early in the second half of their next season, and we're talking to them about participating with that. So I'm excited. I've never performed in Europe. I'm hoping that we end up going there.
Unbelievable. Exciting. Those sound like incredible opportunities, and you got to keep us posted if that stuff comes through.
I love what you're doing, man, and thank you so much for this. This is on a personal and professional level. It's been a total joy.
This is really cool. It means a lot to me to do it. I know it means a lot to my dad to hear it.
Yes, he's texting me saying he's laughing out loud at some of this.
I'm sure. Thanks, Eddie. We're going to go out with that tune we were just talking about. Solos by Keith Chasen on piano and Alan Slutsky on guitar. This is an Ed Vizino arrangement of Leonard Bernstein's Some Other Time. Eddie Bruce and the Ed Vizino and Jim Ward Big Band. It's Breaking Jazz. Thanks so much, man. That was really cool.
So fun, man. So fun. It flew by. Anytime you want.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Great to catch up.
You too, man. Be well.
Best to your kids and the fam and everyone.
Let me know when this is up.
I will. I'll get you all the stuff. Okay. Yep. Cool. Thanks, Eddie.
All right.
See you, man.
Oh, well, we'll catch up some other time. This day was just a token. Too many words are still unspoken. Oh well, we'll catch up some other time. Just when the fun is starting, comes the time for parting. But let's be glad